Welcome to Lifting the Lid on Technology, a podcast series brought to you by SoftSource in association with New Zealand's leading IT vendors and experts. I'm Barry White, VCIO Principal Consultant at SoftSource. In this series, we explore opportunities and challenges in the world of IT. Well, I have with me here today the illustrious Philip Meyer, founder director of Catalyst 345, and previously of Microsoft for 35 years, and partner cloud and hosting sessions for Microsoft across Australia. Phil, great.
And New Zealand.
So there's been a couple of big announcements recently, and there's two here that I want to talk about, but Agent 365, I love it. This sounds pretty exciting, but in plain terms, what really is the problem here that Microsoft's trying to solve?
I think it's that chaos of agents, the agents running around secretly and doing things they're not supposed to do. So that observability registry, the governance is what the Agent 365 to my mind marks that opportunity. I mean, you've heard of the horror stories out there of certain agents that have run out of control. Many of you would be aware of the data center outage in Europe, where one of their staff used the AI technologies on their platform to write an agent that did a reconfiguration, and it actually went and deleted all the configurations because it thought it was smarter to do that, delete and recreate rather than modify. But very sad that they lost the data center for 13 hours because a junior tech had written an agent and hadn't thoroughly tested it. So that was a change of policy within inside that organization to now only have senior techs and reviews of agent writing. I also sense that there's a plethora of people writing agents in the world out there, not using the Microsoft platforms, Power Platform, Power Apps, and they're also getting into troubles that they just don't know what those agents are doing. So I think it's really cool that Microsoft said, well, if you're in the Microsoft space, if you're using those development tools that I mentioned, all those agents are going to get Entra IDs, and we're going to give you observability. I think of it a bit like Copilot dashboard, if you guys are probably familiar with that one, in terms of giving observability about who's using Copilot in the world, what apps they're using Copilot within. Agent 365 is the same sort of thing to make sure all the agents are being governed, they've got compliance, we're seeing which agents are running, which ones are performing efficiently, giving us cost insights to those agents running. So yeah, look, I'm really happy with what they've done with Agent 365. But Barry, can I throw a little bit cold water? Well, I was trying to make this positive. I'd like to see something for small business. To me, it seems to be something that is geared towards the big end enterprises only at this time. No, you can get it as a small business, but it's an additional fee. This E7 release that they've come up, which is fantastic. It's $99 US per person. That's not cheap, $99 US per person to get that Agent 365 with Copilot and all the other good stuff too. I'd love to see have these wonderful business premium add-ons around security. I'd love to see an Agent 365 add-on at a reasonable price for small businesses like Copilot businesses come out.
Let's go mention that, and there has been, as you know, a lot of discussion about E7 and mixed discussion too. And as you say, cost is probably a factor, but also I think you could argue that Agent 365 is really targeting those individuals in the organizations who are really citizen developers. In other words, people who are actually building multiple agents. It's now really, as you say, given these agents all the same compliance and security controls that you can put over an individual, and now place over top of an agent. So you now start to treat that agent as a person and start to look at behaviorals and all sorts of things that previously were not possible. So I think definitely I can see, certainly amongst the customers I know at least, that often have just a handful of people in the organization who are actually building these things. And for the extra cost per month, it's probably pretty worthwhile as an investment if you just want to keep track of these things, as opposed to perhaps the current monitoring process, which is a bit like trying to sort your socks out after the wash, right? It's not that accurate, not that useful, right? And it's a bit of a mass process, right? So,
no, I think the technology releasing this technology agrees is brilliant. We want that security, governance, compliance. I like the way in which they're leveraging the whole Entra suite environment to achieve that too, that we're not creating a completely different identification model. definition model, we're saying, okay, they've got an Entra ID, each of these agents. And of course, with Entra, we can then impose all those Purview governance controls on those in terms of data sensitivity labeling, data protection, DLP, all those things that are in the wonderful world of Purview come into effect in working with those agents with their identifier. It's nice that they've called it Agent 365, which tallies with the idea of Microsoft 365, the Microsoft being something that the human uses, as it were, and Agent 365 being that agent that's running. But then I do look at that last Work Trends Index that came out of Microsoft, which talked about digital labor and human labor. If you don't know how to use AI, you better get starting to learn how to use AI, because it's going to be somebody who knows how to use it that's going to take your job. The point I'm getting at here, there has been a lot of jobs losses because of AI. Now, people say, no, they haven't lost jobs. Well, read the paper. Atlassian, WiseTech over this side of the ditch, absolutely thousands of jobs lost because of AI. That's admittedly in the developer space. But go to the Philippines and go to India, and you can see that digital labor agents are taking roles of call center staff. Absolutely happening. In knowledge worker space, we need to be prepared for this. And there are papers coming out that talk about where it was supposed to be middle people that were going to be affected by agents, and young people or new employees were going to be lit up by the support of agent technology and AI. It seems to be the middle management and upper management will be the ones who survive. And the young people have now got to adapt to learning how to use AI and find those jobs that will be around. I think we've had that discussion about heads, hands, and hearts before, probably thinking about a role which is more in the heart game. Because it's going to be 1.3 billion agents in the next couple of years. That's the population of India or China. That's a big number of agents out there operating. And even though they're agents by name, they can be running in multiples. It's not just 1.3 billion, it's 1.3 billion agents times how many times that thing's deployed across businesses around the globe. It's massive, this number. And there needs to be a level of control.
So talking about agents, that's probably a great segue. And Microsoft Cowork. I mean, now we've got another whole layer here to start getting our head around, and and another, I guess, agent model that we can start to work with and expand the capabilities of what we're doing with Copilot. So for the benefit of our audience, what is Cowork?
So in simple terms, if you're using Copilot today, you can choose auto and it'll figure out the right GPT model for you to use in your chat. Well, you can also drop it down from auto and choose a GPT. Well, if you do the drop down now, you'll actually see Opus 4.5 in the list. So some of you will already be using the Anthropic models of Opus, which are very highly regarded, particularly in the work context. Some of the enhancements that therefore surface through the capability that has as a large language model backend to support things like Excel, summaries of emails. I feel that it will become more prevalent, even with the auto setting, to be able to do those summations, creations, more effective work in Excel, scheduling time in your calendar with others, that what Opus does go beyond, and love OpenAI, but I feel will go beyond what OpenAI achieves in its connection to the Microsoft 365 suite today.
Yeah. Look, I do have some customers who have been started working with Claude Cowork, and so had a bit of insight there. And I think as good as Cowork under Claude is and within that model, I think Microsoft's taken a very responsible position here. That's pretty clear from the Cowork release that they've been working with Anthropic on this for some time. It was only a short time ago that Cowork was launched with Claude, because it's the same technology, right? In that again, Microsoft is using the Microsoft Graph as it does with everything to do with Copilot, WorkIQ, and Cowork works within that governance. So it's only interacting with files and services through the Office Graph, and will not access any files on your local machine, right, in your local files and folders, as Cowork does with Claude right now. So I think there's really interesting to see how that relationship's developing between Anthropic and Microsoft, and that Microsoft's becoming the hosting partner for these new technologies and deploying it into enterprises, through that governance framework, right? Because it's saying, okay, Anthropic's tuning out these amazing tools, and Microsoft's saying, hey, we've got the platform to deliver these capabilities to the user in a highly secure and structured way, right? So I think that's interesting to see how that's evolving. And I've been playing around, for example, with editing Copilot, which is Claude, of course, inside of Word and Excel, and it's literally night and day compared to using OpenAI for similar sorts of tasks. And so if that's anything to go by, we can expect big things out of Cowork, right?
We can, and maybe it's very timely. We've got the Agent 365 kicking in to see that use of the Claude technology and the Opus large language model in the world. But in that mention, I take away something quite profound in terms of what Microsoft does and is different to everybody else out there. If you use ChatGPT, you're fundamentally signed up to using OpenAI. If you're using Claude, you're fundamentally committing to only using Opus. Isn't it interesting? Microsoft now gives you, in the productivity space, a choice of at least two, the different GPTs as well as the Opus model now. So you've got that choice of large language model. And if you move into Azure AI Foundry, in that developer space, that pure developer space, you've got 11,000 models you can choose from within technology available on the Azure platform. And I'm, accolade, high recognition to Microsoft for giving people that choice. Okay, you got to make a bet. You got to pick Microsoft somewhere, and your Copilot Studio, AI Foundry is your bet. I think Microsoft's a pretty safe bet if you're a business.
So for our audience again, what would be a good comparison if we talk about the Copilot chat experience as being a sort of conversational experience where you're almost micromanaging your agent to go and do different things. How's Cowork different? I mean, it's really much more autonomous, isn't it, in terms of how it operates, and you're really giving it something that's more task-based. Would that be good?
Yeah, that's a fair thing. It's much more of in the traditional Microsoft 365 Copilot life, it's more of a chat, a prompt. Look at these particular documents. I'm creating a presentation for this style of audience. Go and get that information and format it so it's relevant to that audience. Give it this sort of tone and manner. Well, it's a specific point task. Okay, that could build over a number of conversations. But in the Cowork world, you're really asking it to then do a repeatable task, something that I have to do frequently. Emails are going to be arriving from me. They're going to include this context within them. Please set up a whole set of response emails for that. Let other people know about these things that are coming in and allocate those tasks. Set up meetings for me in a recurring basis for the future. It will go and look at the calendars and see the appropriate time for you. So you do that process once, but then it sets up recurring themes that occur with respect to an event occurring in a business. And it can be an automated event, a set of emails that arrive, or a transaction that occurs in a database that then fires off, and these agents then kick in to do the work. So it is different. It's less of a conversation. And as you say, it's more of a setting up repeatable tasks.
And from what I understand, and it's probably going to change the way we think about prompting as well. So up to now, we've been investing time in improving our prompting skills and trying to be clever in the way we build these prompts. And in many respects, Cowork you'll be able to offload, well, this is actually what I want to do, and it'll come up with a plan rather than you having to coming up with a cover prompt, right? And then come back and sort of say, well, okay, I figured out how to do that, and here's what I'm thinking, and we'll validate it with you to say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then you can say, yeah, great, go and do that, and come back and check with me before you do anything else, and we'll go and do it, right? So there's so much weight on the prompt right now. You know what I mean? We're almost offloading that responsibility now to this thing and say, well, you figure out how to do it, and then come back and tell me what you're going to do.
I like your point, though, about the human checking. I think there's still going to be a new human check. Yeah, I'd like to have humans involved. And I know people will say, oh, no, we've got to let go. We've got to let everything be autonomous. It's going to be great. It's going to be safe. Or I don't know. Not for a while. Maybe this grey old man is a bit more conscious about having a human who does check and balance before things happen. And similarly, in terms of marketing campaigns, you let these agents run around. They keep doing their thing, even though the marketing campaign's changed or the price has changed. You've got to go back and, we better tell the agent that's changed, not just tell our people.
Well, I think it's great that, I think it's what it is doing, and something I've really enjoyed over the last few months is customers are really starting to share with us some of the, in quite micro detail, some of the things they actually do in their jobs. And, they are trying to do these things, and some are struggling. They're trying to figure out how to get the Copilot chat, and as you say, through prompting, trying to get it to do certain things.
So which is the right tool for the job? I still fear people are trying to move massive chunks of soil with a Ferrari when they need to use a tractor, and that's happening still out there, even with the toolbox that Microsoft's got. And the other day, I met somebody who got very upset with me because I said, "Oh, yes, you can do coding with Copilot." Went home and tried to use the consumer version of Copilot that came with his copy of Windows. And he got very upset when he contacted me and says, "Doesn't work, doesn't do coding." I go, "Sorry, mate, you should have been using GitHub Copilot." "Oh, well, you didn't say that." And I think there's a laziness that's in the market, and particularly with Microsoft with so many Copilot. What's the right one for me to use for the task? I did hear the other day that Microsoft has now put this person, the staff is sort of in charge of kind of bringing together or consolidating all the Copilots out there. So maybe we'll end up with a Swiss Army knife instead of a blade and tweezers and separate tools. So they might put that all into one box, which might make it easier for us.
The analogy I've been using is a set of golf clubs, right? You've got to practice first and foremost. It's not something you just can do out of the box. You've got to get better at it, and you've got to keep doing it to get better. And you've got to know what club to use and what scenario, right? Only through experience will you learn which is the right club to use at the right time, right? So
I tee off with my putter. Absolutely.
Well, until next time, Phil, I'm sure we'll carry this conversation on, and hope you have a good weekend, and we'll
talk soon.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Lifting the Lid on Technology. To learn more about how SoftSource can support you on any of the topics covered today, visit svbgroup.co.nz/insights or find us on LinkedIn. I'm Barry White, and thank you for listening. Join us next time.